joined by the CEO of that particular company, that's Konstantin Sadovnik, who joins us now in studio. Thank you very much for your time. You would have heard my colleague Ntokozo Khumalo there reporting from Transalloys, informing you of some of the members or some of the workers who say they had not been informed about the Section 189.
Well, I suppose they will be informed about Section 189. There is a process, and unfortunately, decision was taken around festive season. This is not our primary choice. We're forced to take that decision because the company has been losing money for about 3 years now in a row, and the market is very difficult and competitive, and if nothing is done, I'm afraid we're going to follow the suit of other manganese smelters.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you say that it's a process that's unfolding, it was announced in the media yesterday. So the impact, did you not also think about the impact that it would have on the families waking up to hear from the media that their jobs are on the line?
Their jobs are indeed on the line. But, and it was a very hard decision for the board to take it, particularly around this festive time. But we believe that hard truth is still better than a nice lie.
Let's talk about the cost driver now. You say energy is your biggest cost driver, and it seems at this point one of the things that are largely affecting you are the skyrocketing tariffs and the electricity prices that are involved here.
Transalloys as a separate entity was formed in 2007, and our electricity costs in South Africa grew industrial tariff, I'm talking about, around 11 times. So this is exorbitant quantum to grow. And I think we've reached the point where the business cannot no longer absorb those costs.
I mean, in some of these discussions, or what you're mentioning, that the costs have skyrocketed, you cannot afford them. What would downsizing look like? At the moment, you're currently looking at 600 jobs, and the impact there, you say, is about 7,000. So downsizing, how many would you be left with?
Well, I think we're facing very tough solutions. Fundamentally, if there is no solution on the energy side, which is found, that will make Transalloy sustainable, the smelter needs to be shut down completely. Whether it's mothballing of the plant in anticipation of a solution which is coming in the next few months, or whether it's a permanent closure, I'm not in a position to tell as yet. It will depend on current discussions that the government, Eskom, Ferroalloys Producers Association, and Ferrochrome smelters are having. And also it will depend on to what extent, how, at what tariff level, and when Transalloys is excluded or included into that solution.
You've previously been in talks with government about renewable energy and seemingly welcoming that particular direction. How were those talks?
I think South Africa, from a holistic perspective, should develop any and all energy sources. And renewable energy, South Africa is blessed with wind and solar, and we definitely should be developing this. But it is imperative to understand that renewable energy is not a substitute for baseload energy. Baseload energy, within South African context, I can only see it being nuclear or coal.
And let's talk about how these costs have sort of impacted on your ability to be competitive. I mean, when we look at countries like China, they've made locals like yourselves unable to compete on the market.
China, on the manganese alloys specifically, they actually adopted a very responsible policy. They only produce manganese alloys from the ore which is imported, but they consume those alloys for their own steel production. And they kind of established a framework whereas alloys cannot be exported. This is not economic to export. And I would say that China is a very responsible player in the alloys market. We, however, is facing a large competition from India, large competition from Malaysia, and Malaysian smelting has been established in the last decade. There was nothing. There were no skills. All skills actually transferred largely from South Africa. And they've, on the back of long-term energy solutions, they actually managed to attract incredible amount of investments, including from South Africa.
South Africa is the biggest export or producer rather of manganese, but most of it is exported. What does that say about the industrial strategy?
I'm afraid to break it, but I think when we're talking about industrial strategy, we can cite the examples of China. We can cite the examples of the same Malaysia, which built a massive smelting hub. I don't think so. South Africa is anywhere near. South Africa has all the potential to be another, let's say, OPEC in manganese. But nothing is being done in this regard, and we're not actually having that discussion with the government. And I think it's about time that we have very specific discussions, not just declarations that we need beneficiation, we want to be the champion, but we need to discuss specifically how, and we have recipes.
Let's talk about the proposed electricity pricing model for ferrochrome and smelters. Would that be enough to save your company?
That would be enough to save the company.
Yeah, talk to us, give us details how.
Well, the minister said that there is a memorandum of understanding which has been signed between Eskom and ferrochrome producers, and they are working together with the government to form a specific entity which would be able to deliver energy at 62 cents. Again, if this is a very ambitious target. Whether numbers would balance, there is a risk there. But if the government is indeed successful in structuring that deal, that would be a saving grace for alloys industry if this solution is rolled out to the entire industry.
The loss of Transalloys, what would that mean for South Africa, given that it's the last major manganese, smelter in the country?
Well, that will mean most likely the end of beneficiation of manganese in South Africa. And that would be regrettably so because South Africa, we have a number of strategic resources. Manganese and chrome would be probably central in this game, where South Africa can play globally a dominant role in the markets. And we're not playing that role currently because we're not proactively addressing those issues. So from this perspective, if we close down, it means the beneficiation is lost. I'm very skeptical about revival of the smelters. It is a very difficult and very expensive task. And again, revival of a smelter would require maybe a 20-year power deal with very certain energy tariff fixed. Only then investors would be willing to consider. But apart from that, you still need to have huge amount of investment into the assets. If assets have been standing for a while, you need to have a lot of work done to restore those assets, to restore furnaces availability, technical capacity. You need human capacity as well, which again is currently there. Everything is there. And I think the best solution for South Africa would be to start by saving what is still in existence. And then we can build from there.
And closing down would be a worst case scenario, right? So in real terms, what would saving what is remaining look like?
Well, if we get the energy tariff, we'll just continue operating. And again, we have all the expertise. If government wants us to expand the operation, we would seriously consider that. If we have certainty about energy, which is our primary cost driver, that's about 37% of our cost base. If we have certainty around that driver for years ahead, we'll consider additional investments as well.
I mean, the last time you raised this alarm was around June 2024. Talk to us about the discussions that you've had with the South African government since then.
I think since then we have managed to accomplish a very important milestone, something that smelting industry hasn't had before. In the last couple of years, the government has adopted a view that they will allow negotiated power agreements between Eskom and large industrial buyers. And those agreements have been implemented for ferrochrome industry and for manganese industry as well, for ourselves. We started to operate with such an NPA this year, although I must say it took us a very long time to actually accomplish that objective because, again, the system is designed to be very, very slow. And it gave us a relief, but we knew up front that that relief was not sufficient. In our submission to Eskom, we've asked for different pricing. Again, Eskom agreed at certain level. We took a deal because it was improving our situation. We were losing less money. But again, in a situation where you're losing money, timing and pace matters, but you're still losing money. So eventually the end will come.
You've been in business for over 50 years and your company directly impacts the broader community of Emalahleni, which the unions now are saying they are going to fight for, right? How are you planning to navigate that, seeing that the unions are not in agreement with what you're planning to do?
We see unions and labor as our allies. We're trying to achieve a shared objective. We're trying to save the business. Saving the business is about fixing the fundamentals. So if we can fix the fundamentals, the business will be saved, the jobs will not be lost. And again, we were always trying to behave as a socially responsible corporate citizen within the communities where we operate. Unfortunately, now we had to stop all of our social projects because of our cash flow situation, but we would be very much looking forward to resume those.
You're looking at now, between now and February. Talk to us about what happens then, because it seems by beginning of the year you'd start on scaling down.
No, we will not start scaling down. We'll try to operate as far as cash allows us to operate. We will have to be conducting our negotiations with the unions as prescribed by Section 189. And again, I'm hoping that this is sufficient time for the government to find that solution. To the extent that there are certain discussions around interim solution for ferrochrome smelters. We are not part of that discussion. To the extent that there is an interim solution on the table that can be implemented, we would very much want to be part of that interim solution as well. And we have written the relevant letters to Eskom and the government. To what extent we would be considered remains to be seen.
Konstantin Sadovnik, thank you very much for your time. He is the CEO of Transalloys, which of course is raising the alarm about a possible job cut of about 600 workers, which may have a direct impact on about 7,000 livelihoods.